Hello, my name is Lauren Varela, and today I will be speaking on the space race during the Cold War era. In 1969, the world watched in awe as Neil Armstrong was the first man to ever take steps on the moon. This marked one of the most significant victories for the United States in the space race and also marked one of the most significant victories for mankind. Understanding the space race not only gives us insight into one of the most pivotal moments in history, but also allows us to see the impacts that this event has had on our current society today and the future of the space industry. I will be exploring the space race starting in 1955 and lasting until 1975 by establishing some of the key players, key events, technological advancements, and the impacts that it has had on our current space industry. I will begin by establishing some of the key players. For a little bit of context, the space race took place during the Cold War, which was a 20-year-long war between the United States and the Soviet Union, and it was a proxy war, meaning that there was no direct fighting, and it was just a huge competition to see who could gain the most power between the two countries. The main player for the United States was the NASA, which was established by President Eisenhower in 1958, and its mission was to beat the Soviets and to pioneer space exploration, according to McKeever in his National Geographic article. Their efforts focused on space vehicle development, human spaceflight engineering, and scientific research. And some of the major achievements that they had was sending men into the moon and into space through some successful programs such as the Mercury program, the Gemini program, and the Apollo program. The Soviet Union main player in the space race was their Soviet space program, established in 1955, a couple years before this United States, and their major accomplishment was sending the first artificial satellite into space, known as Sputnik 1. They had the upper hand in the space race as they began earlier and were the ones who pressured the United States into exploring the space race as well. And some of their successful missions include missions to the moon and to Venus, and sending men in orbit around the Earth through the Luna and Venera programs. Now that I've identified the major key players, I will now identify some individual figures that had an impact on the space race. The first is John F. Kennedy from the United States. He was the president at the time and was the main driver of the race to the moon for the NASA program, and he was the backbone of the Apollo programs and was the one who made their mission successful in that short amount of time. I also included Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, as they were the first humans to ever step onto the surface of the moon. And also I included John Glenn, who was the first American to set orbit around the Earth in 1962 on Friendship 7. I also included some Soviet figures such as Sergei Korolev, who was the main designer and mastermind behind the Soviet space program, and his work was crucial to sending Sputnik 1 into orbit, and also to the first human spaceflight done by Yuri Gagarin, who was the first astronaut, as you can see here, also included, that set orbit around the Earth. So now I'll identify some of the key events that occurred during the space race. The first is Sputnik 1, which was launched on October 4th in 1957 and is marked and is noted by Lanius in his book as Sputnik Night. This night demonstrated the technological prowess and initiated the space race overall. Lanius describes Sputnik as a spherical object weighing only 183 pounds with a radio transmitter, batteries, and unsophisticated measuring systems. So as you can see here, it was a very simple piece of technology and not very appealing to the eye. However, it did make one of the greatest human achievements in history. I also included the first human space flight done by Yuri Gagarin, April 12th of 1961, aboard the Vostok 1. This was a remarkable achievement for humans and from a remarkable person, Yuri Gagarin, And this achievement led the United States to shift their focus into human spaceflight as well, and eventually sending Alan Shepard into orbit around the Earth May of 1961, a couple months after the Soviets. I also included the Apollo 11 mission and their moon landing, which is known as the climax of the space race. On July 20th of 1969, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin set foot onto the moon and fulfilled the vision of JFK. Once they got to the surface of the moon, they were able to capture very important images, study the components of the moon surface, and also to learn more about the history of the universe being in space. Now I will speak on the current space industry and how the space race has impacted and evolved the industry nowadays. So, with the rise of private companies and commercialization with private space companies such as SpaceX, established by Elon Musk in 2002, the space industry and space exploration has now shifted from government agencies into private funded and publicly accessed space innovation and competition. And also, another change that is different from the past space races is that it has also globalized the space industry. The space industry is now globalized, meaning that there is very much collaboration between countries with the establishment of the ISS and the new space race as well. And there are also very remarkable technological advancements that the space race has allowed us to achieve, such as microelectronics, GPS systems, telephones, smartphones, and these are known as spin-offs. They were created with the intentions of helping achieve space exploration, but now are commercialized and used in everyday lives. So in conclusion, in the wise words of Neil Armstrong, that's one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind. The space race was an era of history that ignited amid the tension of the Cold War and flourished to be one of the most remarkable moments of time. Thank you.